All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks. And phones off? Yep.
Oh, yeah, my phone over in my purse isn't off.
You're having over here? Great.
There's yeah, in that red purse, there's a phone somewhere in the mess. Yeah, if you can, and, yeah. Yes, please. It's good, you're doing it. Good. Yeah, it's in a waterproof container.
It's a screen. There's no weight up there. I like it.
Yes.
Thank
Do
you.
you have that cord for her laptop?
Yes, I do. It's in my rug bag. It's right there. Can you give her the power cord?
And then Anthony, maybe run power for her if you have time.
Okay, it's not a priority. I'm good.
Okay.
It's a power right now.
And just, let's just do testing sound. If Amanda, you can do on the keys and just making sure that that's not, we're not getting it, we're not too close.
All right. This is our sound test.
Who's talking
Linda,
out
can you
loud?
tell us, oh, that's background. Write that down.
Yeah, I can hear that.
Natalie to Damien, you gotta keep it down back there, we can hear you on set.
Okay.
Much more controlled than it was before, huh?
Yes. And do you want me just really to just look at you, not try to
Absolutely.
just look at you? Okay,
Yeah,
that's
we're gonna
fine.
be just me and you right now.
Okay.
I might move my chair as soon as Dimitri tells me the best place for it to be.
Okay, gotcha.
I think maybe a little bit closer to here. But
Close the lens.
right here?
As close as you can get with your head.
And I'm just assuming that I'm being filmed from here up, sort of
Yeah.
thing. I don't need to worry about my hands or any of those things.
It's just all natural, be yourself.
Okay.
It is not an infomercial, it's just a conversation that you
Okay.
and I are having.
Okay.
Just a few little things that we're gonna talk
Okay.
about. and
All
that's-
right.
That's all. We made you look beautiful,
Thank
as beautiful as you are, so.
Thank
With all
you.
your new clothes, which I think you got recently, right?
Yes. My clothes are something else.
Have you always been so fabulously dressed?
Oh,
or-
well, thank you for saying that. I don't know what to say. I have liked clothes my whole life, so I guess you could say I've always cared about clothes.
You've always had a bit of a fashion flair, I guess.
Maybe.
Your property had all those like beautiful frogs and cactus and things. It looks like the design of it was really important.
That, yes. Beauty, decoration, fun things, really are important to me. I think they're an important part of who I am.
Did you go to art school or anything?
I did not, but I do have a certificate of, maybe yes and no. I was an elementary school teacher, which I became because I saw that teachers could make bulletin boards, and that's when I decided I wanted to be a teacher in the 6th grade a million years ago. And I did take the first graphic arts class that they taught at Santa Rosa Junior College and completed certificate of completion, and that was before computers. So of course it just became a waste of time.
Like, is a bulletin board kind of like scrapping or something? I don't really know. I'm not too familiar.
Oh, well, just old-fashioned teachers' bulletin boards, maybe a border around it, and then, pictures of what children's art were, or, a subject, wild animals, that you'd cut pictures out of magazines, and just an opportunity to be creative at a sort of childlike level.
Are we slating and stuff, or what?
No,
have that-
don't need to
no?
slate.
No time
No
for
slate.
nothing?
We're jammed.
How is the pictures?
The pictures are
So much to do.
The, speaking of art, I had decorated our property for Halloween more than ever before this fire. And the night before the fire, when I was driving home, I remember telling myself, like about the last mile. Now, don't just drive like you're driving home. Take it in. And so I remember looking at the trees and the bushes and the rocks and the curved and whatever. I made a conscious effort to enjoy that drive home. I mean, it's like many incredible things happened, and that's one of them, I think, for sure.
So you obviously didn't know the fire was gonna happen, you just,
Obviously, no. And we were also naive because the wind, when it was blowing and blowing, and somebody called us from a mile and a half away and said, you should go outside and see what's going on. I went out and covered my Halloween decorations and thought, this is ridiculous, this wind. So many of us were totally unaware that this meant fire goes crazy when it's got winds like that. It was a Hurricane 1 level fire. And I can't believe that I wasn't the only one that was naively unaware that this means crazy things are going to happen. You've got to, be aware of that.
was the fire happening when you were driving to your property? I know when was that? What day? Was there actually could you see fire in the background or was?
We were close enough to the hills that it was kind of like the fire was more in the range of hills behind the hills right behind us, but the smoke was coming and the flames were probably starting, but we were going the opposite direction, and so I do not really remember turning around and looking at it. I just remember that some people came by that wanted our help, so we gave them one car and one cell phone, and we took the other car and the other cell phone and the dog, went inside, grabbed a couple of things without thinking of taking our medicine, the most important thing. And I called one lady that lived about 1.25 miles away down Reebley Road. She called me 2 days later and said, Linda, if you hadn't called me, I would have been gone. You saved my life. So, it was like that was the most dramatically important phone call I ever made in my life. One simple little phone call. It would have been so easy not to call her. Yeah.
What was her name?
Mary Gwen Nising. She's 81 years old. She's just a fabulous lady. And so I got to save a woman I adore as a friend.
How many years did you know her?
About 6. The story of how I got to know her is so crazy. It's a story in itself. You probably don't even want to hear it, but
You can tell us before we get into it.
okay,
We'd love to hear
all
it.
right. My cousin who lives in Arkansas went to a retirement party for Mary's brother, who was and these two, Mary's brother and my cousin's husband, were in the Air Force. And they met in Irvine, California, and happened to mention in conversation that we lived about 1.25 miles away from each other out in the country. It was just like, I'm from California, Santa Rosa. Oh, well, my cousin lives on Wallace Road. Oh, well, we live on Reebley Road. So then we got together for occasional potlucks. And then she just became closer and closer because we both volunteer at the Welfare League in Santa Rosa. And she's just a real dynamo.
I'm sorry, Linda.
Yes.
It'll take a second. Something new occurred lately, which is
Oh, this
car
All
w-
this setup. So.
I'm getting a bounce off that car that's causing these lines.
Which car? Which car?
This white, is that our car, this white?
White 4Runner?
But then another white thing went by
No,
too.
That's not a woman just got out. We can't move it.
See what happens?
I do.
So we can't have that, right? That's too strong.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Give a
Okay.
bounce, maybe?
So if this is our key, so if we're taking them away, we can replace it completely.
Yeah.
That's not our car, sorry?
It's not our car. A woman just got out of it.
Okay. Let's get this outside, guys. And I'll I'll tell you where we live. That's what I
All
thought.
these things. before
Yeah.
we even get started. Can you believe it? Can you believe it?
I'll tell you where we live.
Hopefully it gives me more time to relax.
You seem really relaxed. I was actually going to ask you about what you make at the potluck.
So,
You,
Anthony, you understand what I'm doing, right?
I didn't even know, I just showed up there, didn't even know it was a pot. No, I did. I went to Safeway and bought desserts.
What desserts?
This beautiful little thing of, well, part of it was chocolate chip cookies because I was dying for them, but this beautiful thing that's French or something that I can't even tell you. Anyway, some French or Italian or some dessert that was just to die for.
Like a cream puff or
It was an assortment. If you ever go into Safeway, they're $9.99, and there's these different little shaped things with pecans and sorry.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
fine. I'm just-
but
I'm-
yeah,
I'm
but it was.
hungry. I wanna talk about
Oh,
food. I always
yeah,
wanna talk about food.
it was one of those things that you just knew somebody was gonna, have fun trying. Oh, do I want that one or that one or that one?
How's it going?
We're good. Yeah, we killed that out.
So you were talking about your dog, and I would like to maybe go back to that. What is your dog's name?
Eddie Bear. He's about 16 years old. This has been kind of hard on him. But he's finally beginning to get the picture that when I go to this new home and Clyde is staying there all the time so he can work, that maybe this is our new home. And one time we did go back out to the property with him and he got to walk around the paths. And maybe that, I don't know what dogs comprehend, but maybe he got some idea of why things were different.
So I think we might begin here soon. And we're all set with a picture
Yes, we are.
Was that a good placement? We're live?
Yes.
Okay.
and sound. So we are rolling.
Yep, and we are back. Just, actually 1 second. Trying to take off the feature.
So we have a list of wonderful questions that the lovely Amanda put together. So we're just
Okay.
gonna kind of run through those.
Okay.
And maybe ask you a couple of times. I might ask you to think about some things. I might ask you to laugh. I might ask you to cry. I probably won't ask you to cry.
Well, the thing of it is my daughter said, you're disappointing because you don't cry. So, maybe something good will make me cry more than something sad. I'm not sure. I haven't cried yet.
I think that's a strength, and I think that you're a very strong person. So I'm happy to have met you. For
Thank
sure.
you.
And being able to share that moment with you at your house was really special.
Yeah. I mean, just privately, not on film, can I tell you part of my not crying story?
We can absolutely tell me.
Okay,
anything.
I don't want this to be on film. I had a nephew who took his life when, yeah, I had a nephew who took his life when he was 17 years old. And I think I drove to work every day crying, and so the car at that time was my cry booth.
Mm-hmm.
And then after a while, you just realize there's nothing more to get out of crying. And somehow that has been a part of me, because then I lost a son-in-law tragically, and I just only cried a tiny bit and threw myself on the bed, and I just didn't need to cry.
I understand that.
Yeah,
So let's roll sound. Thank you for sharing that. That was really special.
thank you.
Did you spot? Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna go through these questions, and we are going to meet again for the first time.
Okay,
Because I've met you, and we've met everyone here, but obviously the people that live inside the camera have not.
okay, sure.
So if you want to tell me your full name, and you do not have to tell me your age, but your age would be great too.
Okay, my name is Linda Sue Lorenzen, and I am 76 years old.
What do you love about living in Santa Rosa in Northern California?
When I first moved here, I loved that there were creeks. I grew up in Southern California. When somebody said, "Hey, you behave yourself or I'm going to knock you in the creek," it was just like a whole new world, and that's what we ended up living by was creeks. And then also, I was from a very conservative Orange County, and I belong in Northern California. I have liberal sympathies. I belong here.
So why do you belong in Northern California? Because you have what?
Because it's a more liberal, it's a more open way of looking at life. I was an elementary school teacher. I had an aunt say, well, they've come out with new math. They called it modern math. You know that's just the communists are trying to get between people and their children. The John Birch Society. That was what was normal. They were lovely, wonderful people, and I am just a more spiritual person, not a fixed religion.
Would you say maybe Northern California is a bit more free-spirited?
Yeah. Oh, yes. That would be a way of saying it. California is more free-spirited.
And how long have you been living in this area?
52 years. We moved here wanting to move from Southern California, Anaheim, wanting to live in Santa Rosa because we had friends that had an acre of property with a creek that ran through it. And that was, okay, there's a place this school teacher could have that life. And that's what we have, is an acre with a creek that went beside it. That's a very rare thing for somebody to have. And somehow it happened. And then just liked it here. The history is people take history much more to heart. The California history, and in Southern California, it was just kind of pasted over with development.
When you obviously love the creek, you like fashion, you
Yes.
love Halloween, because you decorate all your home with Halloween. I wanted to know a couple of other things that you enjoy to do in your spare time, maybe in and around your house or just in California in general up here.
Well, I love to read, so I had a huge amount of books. I loved going out every morning and going to see what roses might be blooming and putting roses around the house and making sure the bird feeders were full. I had a bird feeder that was hanging right outside the window right next to where I did my computer so that I would try to catch birds. So it was the nature and the opportunity, to enjoy that as an older person. One of the advantages of living into your 70s is that, and even this tragedy, is that it has given me a time to think about all the precious things that have gone on in my life, that have gone in that house, and that maybe the physical part of them is gone, but the memories are not gone. And I used to always make lists of things that I didn't want to forget, like what books did I read, what famous people did I meet, what plays did I see with, Richard Burton or Yul Brynner, and I would make lists of things that I appreciated, and those lists are burned and gone. So I will try rewriting them. And then books that, were signed by people that you like very much, like Julia Cameron, and, the list goes on of Dave Barry. Anyway, I can't think of the most famous one right now.
I guess the lists are gone, but it's...
Yes, and so it's just part of who I realize. This is really who I am. It's kind of like I have to finally be proud of who I am and give and let go of low self-esteem, because I feel like people have never understood why I had low self-esteem. I don't think I do anymore. That's pretty beautiful.
It's like a rebirth,
Yes,
starting over.
yes.
So, how and when did you hear about the fires?
About,
And where were you when you heard?
oh, we were home. My husband was sound asleep. I still hadn't crawled into bed yet. And the phone rang, and about a mile and a half down the road, a neighbor called, and a friend of ours, a dear friend, called and said, "There's a fire in the hills behind you. You probably need to be aware of it." And so that's when I got up and went out and looked and didn't see a fire, and I didn't smell smoke yet or anything. And then finally Clyde got up, and then this pickup pulled into the road in front of us, and this couple got out that lived up in the foothills closer to the fire. And they looked at us, and so that's the couple. We gave them one car and one cell phone, and took the other car, dog, and other cell phone, and said, "You go find a motel somewhere, we'll go find a motel somewhere, we'll call each other, and then we'll know we're okay." And so that's how we left. When we left, there were all these cars going by down the road, and that's just kind of what we did. We just left, and we're glad the road was open, and we were leaving, and had that feeling that, well, we'll go back. Ironically, the person who lived right across the private road from us was a retired major, I think, of the California Fire Department, who had been in charge of all air flights. Whenever he got a phone call, like, is it, whatever it was, they would hang up, and then they would call him again to make sure that the right person had been reached and had made the right decision. So I had this feeling of, well, we'll never burn down, because guess who knows how to make the right phone call to who? And the California, we had paid extra taxes to make sure that, and they had decided we don't need to pay extra taxes for air service where we lived about a year ago. But then this hurricane fire came. It's unprecedented. So it just shocked everyone.
So you seem to know a lot of people that lived around you, and we wanted to know, since this has happened, have you actually gotten closer to your neighbors that you didn't know, or is...
There has been so much to do just to keep moving forward, finding a place to live. I only had 2 days of medicine, and I have to take medicine every day. I take prednisone. It's a necessity. And so my daughter called a doctor at Stanford that I had gone to at one time, and she gave a prescription to a CVS in San Carlos of a 2 weeks emergency pills for me. Because in Santa Rosa, you couldn't reach a doctor. There were no CVXs. The hospitals were all closing. Where would you go to get medicine? I thought my daughter was a miracle worker to think of calling this doctor at Stanford. And then I went to San Carlos and stayed with her, and also went to my sister's home and stayed with her down in more the Bay Area. And we couldn't get back into our property anyway for 2 or 3 weeks.
Would you say that through this tragedy, there's kind of been a really strong connection of community, and people kind of, maybe in your own words, you can let me know how people have been there for you, how the community is pulled back together?
Definitely. Definitely. One of the things that was kind of a very dramatic part of our story is that we had a huge koi pond with beautiful big koi in it. And one of the ladies that lived on a hill on Wallace Road, up above everybody, where there was lots of field because they had cows, had one of our neighbors whose house burned to the ground go up to her home and put water from her swimming pool all over her home and saved her home. and her name is Kelly Carroll, and she's this strong, wonderful person. And we had heard that she was going and helping people, like getting their llama, and taking it somewhere where it could eat or things like that. And so we called and said, Kelly, we had koi. We don't think they survived, but would you go look? And she said, I'll go look, And she said, I don't have fish food, but I'll grab some oatmeal. And so she drove to our home and fed them oatmeal because they did survive, and came back and called and said, yes, your koi are alive. And about 3 days later, she had contacted the animal control of California, and they had arranged for our koi to be moved to the University of California at Davis. So our koi are in pond number 2, and one of them even had a little sore on its side, and they performed surgery on one of our koi. It's not that we didn't take good care of our koi, but when you have a pond of koi, you have to put in a medicine in the water that doesn't hurt anybody but might help, solve the problem. So we had this amazing koi story, and which was such a fun, wonderful thing for our grandsons, because this home that Grandma and Grandma had, the most perfect home in the world for them to go to, the koi lived. And the fact that they lived, I think, will help take away some of the pain for
And they
them.
still live on.
And they still live on. And so right now, that's why the house that we're moving into in Oakmont is coming along very slowly, because my husband had to build a koi pond out in the yard first before the rains came.
Do you have names for the koi, or is that?
Some of them, I think, did have names. Right now, I can't tell you what they are. In years past, I remember some of them were named.
And what's the thing that gives you hope now?
Well, so many beautiful things have happened. So many like little miracles have happened in a way that I started a list, and it's just the way things have gone so amazingly well. It's like, why not keep thinking that things are going to continue to go amazingly well? I have a little tablet that's called Blessings Galore, and every day I write down special things that happen. So being able
What
to,
are some of those things that you write down?
well, number one, I think that I called Mary, saved her life. And then these people stopped, and when they got out, because
Very
of
special, by the way.
these people that we knew, that got out, and we asked the policeman, well, should we evacuate it? He said, yes. That's how we found out that we should evacuate. So one thing after another just keeps happening, and I could get out my list and just go down it and down it and down it. Right now, there's just so much that happened in the beginning. That, another thing, we found a Motel 6, which is what our dog is used to staying at, in Rohnert Park. All the ones in Santa Rosa were, closed. They were on fire or closed. And we woke up in the morning, and we were next to a Black Bear diner. Black Bear diner.
And your dog is?
Well, and our dog, is Eddie Bear. Oh, this is true. I didn't put that together. And so waiting in line and waiting in line and waiting in line to get food of any kind, and they did a great job. A lady came and said, right now, everything is shut down in Santa Rosa. This is the first place we came to that you could find food. And so, isn't that kind of like a crazy little wonderful thing that we are right by where we can eat?
Yeah. We're wrapping up now.
Okay.
Would you just tell me your name again,
Yes.
age, and what your address is?
Linda Sue Lorenzen. My previous address was 4300 Wallace Road. My current address is 7553 Oak Leaf Drive, and they're in Santa Rosa.
You need to open the door.
Okay,
Your friend
I
is
see
back.
who's here.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Sorry.
Hello.
Good to see you again.
You too.
Hi.
I went in and had a tooth pulled and told oh thank you, and told the receptionist, that you were in my life, and she goes, Tyler Florence. I said, yeah, and I think we probably hugged 3 times. and so people were like, what? Don't you know he's married? Can't he hug an old lady whose house has burned down without you bringing
I'll
up?
hug who I want, you know what I mean? I'm a hugger. Okay. So good
Yeah,
to see you.
thank you.
So good to see you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being a part of this. I appreciate
Yes.
it. This is really going to be a very powerful piece.
Well, how fantastic. I am so honored beyond belief.
Oh my God, please.
Yeah.
That's great. Hey guys,
Thank
you
you.
guys good?
Thank
Yeah?
you.
See, brother. All right, let's go.
Yeah.
I don't want to. Can I jump in somewhere? Where do you want?
Let's talk to Natalie.
Okay.
This is Anthony. Sorry to see
Good
you.
to see you.
So like Lucas.
So Linda, hi,
Thank you.
how are you?